that?
Now I'm running over. All right. Today is July 11th, 2022. Sylvania Development Committee. I believe there's still a quorum because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including select board members Carl Butler and Jane Rees-Brock. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Good, unless we're adding the idea of battery storage, but we can talk about that with the survey.
Yeah, that might be, we'll put that under new business. Any other new business? All right, that's the adjustment. Citizens' comments, no one in the audience. Minutes for May 2nd, 2022. Trust everyone read it very thoroughly.
Yeah, really good minutes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second? All those in favor? Unanimous. All right. Old business, public input and survey. So thanks to Mark Gale and the last minute touch-ups. You should all have a copy of the Sylvania Development Committee survey. Obviously, the few corrections are going to have to be done, like having the town seal on it, and then the third page for some reason cut off. The second page cut off the last bit for the town office mailing address, but other than that,
Need a space after this.
okay.
Which goes with the first chunk. Or it could just be a box. Otherwise, I have to reduce the font size.
Funny enough, I was going to reduce it, but I thought someone was going to complain that it was too small.
No, I think is it, what is it now, 12? Or,
Usually I do 12, but it might be 11.
oh.
Just some notable items. For the first one, the first highlighted one, it's just telling people to simply put a check mark in a column that best represents their view on the matter, rather than just doing this ranking system. And the second one, the option to sell, please note in other suggested, we're just telling them to please note in other suggested uses, whether the people are advocating for selling the entire 10-acre parcel or just to sell the minimum 2-acre parcel that has the opposite house. So, and the remaining would stay with the town.
Max,
Yes.
do you want to talk about including another option under the use of the property, battery storage? Possibly in combination with one of the solar options. I mean, you can add it, we can add it anyway, as a person filling it out, but it might not be something that occurs to a lot of people. And when they read it, they might say, yeah, that might be something worth talking about.
So would the battery storage be its own separate item, or should it be tied into the solar because battery storage is tied to solar so much?
Well, I would tie it to solar, but I don't know how other people feel.
Open to the committee, thoughts on.
I'm wondering how it would be financed. Would this be a public-private partnership, pure private?
And that's
Would there be would we solicit proposals for it from a private entity? How would this work?
so there's a few examples that exist in the state right now of how this was done. I'm just going to chat just in case someone shows up, wants to say something. In some cases, it is a solar developer would just lease the land and simply use that for their project. Up in Rumford, they have someone who also leases the land for, I think the individual said $1 million for every megawatt. want battery storage. It could be a town project. It's kind of falls into the same thing with solar, where the town could make its own solar farm, or the town could just lease it out to a third party. Same with thing for solar.
I think what I had in mind was CMP leasing land from the town and putting its own battery system, the way it's doing in the southern part of the state. In a number of cases, they've apparently the PUC is now allowing these things, allowing CMP to put these things in to buffer usage during demand periods, high demand periods.
Right.
And it reduces the risk, the requirement to put in cable wires. They don't need to install as much because of the load that the batteries can offer at times when it's needed. I don't pretend to understand the ins and outs of it, but there was an article recently in the Portland Press Herald about, and I think I sent it to everybody, about this idea, and I just thought it might fit in with the Sylvania site. Mike Lang actually suggested it. He brought it up.
I wonder if it should be separate, just because it doesn't have to be tied to a solar farm. I do think most people aren't going to understand what it means,
Yep.
but so I don't know how to deal with that, but just as an option for us to explore. We obviously need a lot more information.
Yeah, I'm confused. Are you talking about storing electricity with these batteries? It's
Yeah.
not just,
These are-
you know, just having a bad experience with a battery, my own. I know how volatile, but have people explored the safety and hazards of just this whole battery stuff? I mean, they're, you know, pretty toxic. So has that been explored? I mean, is this the safety? Is there any safety issue? I mean, you got a site that's got all kinds of toxic heavy metal. Is it something you want to throw some more possible? I mean, I'm not putting the kibosh on it. I just wondered about that.
Part of it is what battery we are getting, what size we are getting, because this could be something that's just in a sealed shipping container, essentially. It
Right.
could be a battery that size. I didn't print off pictures for what, but you could look up Rumford, Maine,
Or Booth Bay,
or Booth Bay and see the batteries they have there.
Right.
and they're lithium ion, which isn't quite the same as, say, a car battery.
Right. And
Although I
lithium,
don't-
yeah, they can catch on fire.
Yeah.
Lithium, I mean, airliners have crashed because they've had lithium batteries in their hold and they've just combusted.
So
And I don't purport to know the scientific, I'm just saying that crossed my mind.
I think that's a safety issue we discuss if and when it becomes a viable option. I think my view is that CMP would take the lead on that and base it on their own experience with units they already have in place or have license to build and install. They do sit in separate shipping containers, so if you're concerned about fire hazards, the containers are going to pretty much contain a fire.
There are different chemistries. Lithium ion batteries. Probably the safest chemistry I know of is lithium iron phosphate batteries, which have a much better safety record than the lithium nickel cobalt batteries. The lithium ion batteries have nickel and cobalt in them. And there's been some pretty spectacular fires.
Yeah.
There was a picture of a bus in France, an electric bus that basically was kind of 4th of July territory. But the lithium iron phosphate they're pretty safe. But we'd have to solicit proposals and ask questions about battery safety, I guess.
I'm comfortable having it as an option. I feel like we should do more than say battery storage, maybe just one. Something that just lets people know it's a big scale thing. It's not like,
I wonder if it would also tie into lease for storage.
I thought it might give us some leverage with CMP to get them to increase the capacity of that substation. I mean, if they're looking for sites to install these battery buffers, if you will. We have one that's a potential use to them, and we might use it as a lever to get them to do other things that we need to have done.
What do you think about Max's idea of lease for storage? Just having batteries be an option for the leasing for storage, which is,
Yeah,
Then we're not, because then I'm wondering what people are, we have to remember, this is gonna be the average resident who's gonna see it, who's not watching all these meetings. I'm wondering what the reaction will be when they see storage and then underneath these for battery storage, if we're suddenly just storing a bunch of AA batteries.
They're gonna think like a car battery or, old batteries that you discard. They don't, people,
Right.
we think that people know the whole gamut, but they don't.
this would be something that would enhance the overall viability of the grid.
Yeah,
I mean, and if I don't mind explaining it that way, if that's what the intent of the committee is.
Well, no, I don't think we're really arguing whether or not that's the case. I think the focus was just on the survey right now.
Right.
how about using the language in what you sent, Bob, which was utility scale electricity storage?
Yep.
And just that in, if people look it up, if they'll be,
Yeah.
they
I
might
like
have
that
to do
better.
some research.
I like that. Sort.
Because I think it should be separate. It's right here.
That makes sense.
Electricity storage.
And then just leave the other storage. I mean, I'm assuming you're meaning like putting their extra stuff. So, whatever.
Both vehicles. If the school's still looking for a spot to put their buses.
Is the survey, Max, is this, as I see it, is this set in stone? Is this the hard copy, or is there any changes or additions or?
No, we can still make some changes. The hope is that, assuming there's no massive change that have to happen now,
Right.
I'm hoping the select board can approve this so we can send it out with tax bills later this month.
I just had one thing and I proposed months ago, and I don't see it on here. What about just letting it lie fallow for the time being, and then just maybe down the road, a use will be determined for it, and, do nothing. I mean, there's areas where people just allow these areas to just, you don't have to do something. But, and I'm not saying that is the perfect, you're losing revenue, but, why not an option? Maybe some people just like wild spots or whatever.
We have the low
Yeah,
impact.
Oh,
I was about to say there's preserved for low impact outdoor recreational uses, which is just trails.
So that would kind of cover it in a
Yeah.
sense.
Because
I think we're talking about the paved area, Johnny. It's so ugly down there.
I just jogged by there 2 or 3 times, and I'll tell you, it's just a mess. Look, everything growing, there's rocks. That Hofs's house, I look at that and I see that tarp, and and I've been making comments based on, but I've never been inside there to see that. I've never actually visualized the inside.
You look at the photos, Max.
I did, and it caused me great alarm, because as a respiratory therapist for 35 years, I've treated any number of patients who have asthma. And let me tell you, not even asthma, you get any kind of respiratory mold, particularly black mold, it's horrible. So I feel stupid that I don't feel stupid, but it would be possible at some point for me to, we could go in there and look actually.
Yeah, it's
'Cause-
open. I can.
Yeah, because I think I would make a more educated, informed, process of what I'm advising.
I have the key if anyone ever wants to go visit.
Okay,
Just schedule a time.
yeah, I'll hook up with it.
Sounds good. So for the survey, I'll include the utility scale electricity storage as an option for Sylvania, or for the Sylvania lot. Johnny, the preserve for low impact outdoor recreational uses, is that fine, or do you want?
I still think there's a little delineation. I'm not trying to let
So a separate. option.
perfect be at the enemy, the good be the enemy of the perfect, or however that goes, but
So,
there's almost, to me, a little bit of a difference.
Just
so,
allowing it to revert to forest or something?
Well,
What are you
just let it,
talking
let it grow. I saw an article, I wish I could recall it, but these there's a movement that people just want to let spaces just grow, let nature do something. Now, I'm not saying let it go crazy and over, grow everything, but just let it, and then maybe a use will come that is perfect for that. 2 months, 6 months, a year from now.
So for this, how would you phrase that off? Just leave it alone?
I've been trying to conjure up the right word or phrase.
I think Johnny's referring to something that we're trying to do with our own property, and that is to just rewild the
Yeah,
property.
okay, all right,
Rewild.
something of that genre.
Could you just say preserve as open space and that would. could
There
be
you go,
preserved?
that's another one. Oh,
So keep
perfect.
that separate from the preserve for low impact outdoor recreation uses.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yep.
Well, I think you have a sentence up here. It's not like this is the hard and fast list. These
Right,
are
that's
just
what I was-
ideas that have come up.
Right.
So, and then I think you have a sentence about plenty of other options to consider. Third paragraph.
Right.
And allowing people to put them in. So we're just
Yeah.
trying to get input. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't look at it as.
Hard and
cement.
fast, I
Yeah.
got you.
We are gonna give people a little space where they can put in any other uses that they don't see here.
And this is exhaustive.
And keep in mind, we're gonna get the results back, and this is just to get a pulse for what everyone is saying.
Right.
Oh, Matt's here. For what everyone's thinking, and we're going to do a sort of a follow-up form, to just show these results and get an idea for people who are in the audience. Maybe they want to explain their survey results a little bit more,
Right.
and maybe some want to show up and say, well, don't listen to option A. Option A is going to lead to all this stuff.
Could there be a column, I like strongly support, neither for, against, do not support, and then maybe a box, comments, additional comments, so the people who vote on it might have something, an addenda, if you will, that might actually clarify what it is that they'd like, and that's serving the people better, because it's giving them, I think, a voice for their idea. And I'm sure we would get a lot of good, data from these people, from the town people.
What does the rest of the committee think?
I kind of feel there's ample opportunity on the rest of the forum to do what is being suggested. Yeah, it makes it, if you have another column, the amount of space you have to write is fairly small. I don't know what one could get into such a small space that in written language that might be meaningful. They'd be better off maybe writing on the back of the form. or
Yeah,
something.
maybe
Yeah.
at the very end, comments or suggestions.
Feel free to attach
Feel free.
something else.
There you go. That's,
Feel
that's,
free to write as much as you want. and
that's
attach it.
perfect.
So on the second page, do you
Yeah.
have any other thoughts or concerns that you would like to share about this project?
Maybe you could just add about any of the options presented.
Yeah, just
And
give,
they can put that in there.
About any of the options presented?
yeah,
Or other.
I do have one other format suggestion, Max. You've highlighted a part of the form about the house's house, asking people if they say that we should sell the house to indicate a preference for selling just 2 acres with the house or the entire 8 acres with the house. Why don't we just list those as 2 separate options? Sell the house and all 8 acres on the open market, or sell the house and only 2 acres on the open market, retaining acreage along the river for the town. That way, they don't have to write anything. They just mark one preference or the other.
That's a good idea, because people aren't going to know that it has water frontage necessarily.
Well, I think we described that in the option.
Right, that, yeah, or maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't say
No.
that, so it might be worth saying the liquor property goes down to the Madomic or something, just so people know. You do say how much frontage overall, I think.
So I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna get rid of that highlighted sentence, paragraph, and just add in another just add in essentially another option.
Yeah, that might give you some space more space on the form. I don't know, maybe not. But I think you're hitting on a good differentiation there. I think it's important to ask that.
So that will be two options. And then I'm going to change. Do you have any other thoughts or concerns that you would like to share about this project, to share about any of the options that were presented for Sylvania or the Hobson's house? Or should I just leave that as just?
Maybe any of the options presented or others that you might have. So I don't know.
Or others?
I mean, I think it was okay what you had, but
Anyone have any strong feelings on changing that language or leaving it as this project? I'll make the change just for clarity's sake. Okay. Are there any other changes on the survey people want to bring up now?
just have one typo. Survey there.
Oh,
Um, no, looks good.
all right, so I'll just go through the changes one more time, make sure. So first, I'm going to make the font a bit smaller, probably one grade down. I'm going to add in two more options for the Sylvania site. One is for utility scale electricity storage as an option, and another is to preserve it as open space. There's going to be the spacing item for other suggested uses. I'm going to mention the waterfront that's at the Hoff's house. And then we're going to get rid of that highlighted section on page 2, and that's just going to be a few more another option or two to just say selling it or dealing with it as a whole 10-acre parcel or as a separate 2-acre parcel. And then do you have any other thoughts or concerns? We'll say, do you have any other thoughts or concerns that you would like to share about any of the options that were presented for Sylvania or the Hoff's house? And then adding in the survey, people are being told how to submit their survey. Am I missing anything else?
It looks good, Max.
I think it's ready for prime time.
Ready for the tax bills?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get the seal on there.
I'm ready.
See what kind of response we get.
All right, in that case, is there any concern if I take it to the select board when it's ready and then get them to vote on it?
No.
All right,
By all means.
that'll be that item. Before we go forward, I see Matt Day is on Zoom. I think you all remember Matt. He attended the one meeting, and I was able to show him
Hey.
around his house.
I'm walking in the door right now.
You're
Oh,
actually
he's,
walking in.
he's coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, what timing?
Yeah, he's walking in.
All right, well, offer you assistance.
Here he is. I see him.
All right. Well, there he is.
Hey, sorry about
That's
No
okay.
worries. Didn't even have to come. Okay, I have to turn that on.
Leave the meeting there.
There we go.
Not good at driving and multitasking.
Yeah, feel free to.
We listened as much as I could, so.
So, that's good. If you want, we can revisit citizens' comments if you have any items you want to talk about.
Well, we are officially abutters now. Last time we were here, we just had a contract on the property. We did close on the,
Excellent.
and it's so really excited about that.
Excellent.
Been poking around a lot.
Is this on the south side of the
On the south,
hospitals?
yes, at 523. There's one little cutout, 2-acre cutout there that was actually, by Lindsay something. She's right next to the Hoff's house. Her grandparents were born in the house we bought just south, that Carpenter Gothic place. It runs back to the river.
Apparently Robin's watching on YouTube right now.
Oh, good. She sent me the link to get on here. So anyway, we're really excited. We've been poking around a lot there. And, you know, super interested and invested in whatever happens next door. I'd like to really be involved. Sorry, we hadn't been more involved since the last meeting, but
Which is fine.
it was quite, well, I mean, it was quite a sort of a due diligence period we had there for obvious reasons. We're convinced it was the right thing to do. We're very excited to be there. And anyway, I was ready to jump right in. I didn't really mean to interrupt your meeting.
So by participating, do you mean just like sitting in the audience, or do you want to be on the committee?
Oh, I'd love to be on the committee.
All right, well, I mean, I think there's still plenty of space. So.
You sent us a form. Haven't filled that out. So I'm not prepared. I can certainly fill that out with all of the variety of questions on there.
Yeah.
Sort of an application. So it's like I can certainly do that and forward it to the powers that be.
Yeah.
Don't have to get like elected on next like November 6th or anything crazy.
I think you just have to do the due diligence.
We can waive that if you pay me about $50 or something.
That's right. As long as I get a free permit to put a dog on the river.
Exactly.
We will, I mean, that is something that we're thinking. I know there's issues with, you know, the clamming and whatnot. We see no docks for development at all on our bank of the river and quite a bit across the way. And I don't know if that's just a significant data point or not. We would like to actually not do much down there, but we would like to, you know, take advantage of the waterfront. And I assume that that's something that would be.
There is an ordinance. though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you'll probably.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. We're allowed to play by all the rules.
Yeah.
We didn't know if the Sylvania site specifically sort of was going to prohibit us from doing anything down there. I wouldn't think so either. I'm not sure why it would.
Do you mean the down right where the river is? That, so you can't get clams there, correct?
No,
Until the
I believe,
point.
no, I believe it's still prohibited.
It's prohibited. So clearly, is that the state of Maine saying the fishery saying,
That's the Department
so
of
there's an
Marine
issue
Resources.
with what? Heavy metals, pollution, the flume, what have you,
Disturbing the mud.
disturbing the mud. So people have docks on the other side of that river and there's nothing on this side?
Well, I mean, within eye shot of me,
Right,
there isn't.
right.
And there wouldn't, that's probably insignificant because to the north, it's all Sylvania land. There's no
I
development there.
got
And to the south, or I only can just see a bit right around the bend.
Okay.
So there happen to be 3 or 4 just across the way that we can see.
I just wonder what well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but is that allowable? Can you do that?
The
Can
planning
people?
board will deal with
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
our
not part of it.
bailiwick, you know,
Right,
and some of them might be grandfathered. And there was
okay,
an
that makes
ordinance
sense, yeah.
for clammers
Mhm.
prohibiting new docks that went into mud.
Okay, so,
Right.
Because they didn't want the footprint. But you're right, you're probably in this kind of
Right.
gray area
Yeah.
where it may not apply. I don't know.
I was hoping that there wasn't a Sylvania specific thing
No.
about something to
Yeah.
the butters or something. I would hope not.
I would hope,
I don't.
no.
All right.
It's the button factory. That's the problem, right? Not Sylvania per se.
I am not gonna confirm or deny any statement like that.
But the DMR will, and yes, it's the one.
Yeah. And it used to be a tannery before it was a button factory, which was probably worse as far as chemicals.
Yeah. well.
Max, you know something.
I
Now,
don't-
why don't you spit it out?
No, I'm just looking at the time and I need to
Okay,
get through all these items too. We're gonna have fun talking after the meeting. All right, so thank you for coming, by the way.
Yes, so I'm sorry to be late.
Oh, no, no,
Next
but-
time.
I don't know how you're late. So next, the Hoff's house, just an update. So as Johnny pointed out, Carl went out, he fired his arrows, and now there's a tarp on the roof. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Hoff's house as an update. The tarp's up.
I did hear that there was the town or someone would consider selling the Hoff's house in 8 acres or 2 acres.
Yeah.
Is that?
That would be on the survey, and that's just to see if people want us to do something with the house or just demolish the house, or what do people want us to do with it? I have been approached by the fire chief again about possibly having the house's house and the area just out back of it being sort of a fireman's training area where they would put in all the investments themselves, not have to get the town involved, but there would be a sort of a training, like a classroom type setting in the house's house. And then out back, they would have their concrete pad, they're 1 foot above the thing, so nothing would get spread out. And then they put out some training fires that would then go into the public sewer system. I checked with Maine DEP about that, and Max said that there can't be any of that foam.
PFAS, yeah.
Can't have any of that for
Forever foam.
a few obvious reasons. 2, it would be washed like a hawk, essentially, which Chief Smeltzer was aware was likely going to be a response. But other than that, be on sewer and water.
And what would the process for allowing them to do that be? Because I can tell you right from the get-go, I'll do a deep dive into vehemently opposing it in terms like, unless, like, so they're gonna do training with fake foam? I mean, it's just like what?
No, just water.
Just water, right? It's,
It would
those
just,
things are just no, and I'm not, this isn't an anti-first
right.
responder thing or
Right,
something,
right.
but it's not. We would do a lot of looking in.
No,
all
that's
of that,
that's
for
fair.
sure, as an abutter.
right.
Thinking of a big training facility, just, I mean, it's important to have training facilities. I can't imagine that's the best spot in town for it, right on the watershed and whatnot. Anyway,
They've been looking throughout the mid coast for a place on sewer and water to have this type of training facility. And again, he's just asking, is that an option? And
Oh, yeah, totally. I'm not trying to be ornery already, 5 minutes onto the.
in terms of the process, the town as a whole would have to approve it. The planning board would likely have to approve it because of what it is.
Very pleased to hear that there's like the PFAS thing is
Right.
being recognized anyway. As you know, Robin is like a total PFAS sort of thought leader,
Yeah,
like kind of killing this in Maine and what she's doing for Misty River Farm and whatnot. So we're really living it. So like any chance for any of that would be.
well, and that's the other sort of filtration to make sure if this was to go forward, DP would obviously has to be for it. And, Max Bruce sort of pointed out what his fears are already. So, Bob, were you gonna? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, why don't we pen this conversation until after we see the survey results?
I was about to say, I'm just giving the update that this was it with the hospice house. Carl
Yeah.
did his thing with the roof, and I was just asked if this was an option for the hospice house. We can see how the survey results go.
Can I ask one quick question? If it were firemen's training, would they keep the house or would they raise the house?
Keep the house.
It's such a cool
And,
house.
that was the other thing. I did ask for clarity from Maine DEP about what an educational facility was. Max was talking more about like Potomac Valley High School or middle school, a place where people are going there every single day. The fireman's training thing would be maybe 1 class a month. Like, not that often. But yeah, the idea would be to save the building, just repurpose it. Johnny, were you gonna say something?
Just looking at those photos you sent, and that house is just horrible. I'm sorry. I mean, you can see the mold coming. It's almost, I don't know, do people go in there without any kind of respirator? When you go in there, do you wear anything to protect? Nothing?
No, we haven't worn anything going in.
Didn't look that, I mean, it's so much air going through.
I'm
There's a
just,
lot of water penetration.
I'm just looking at
It
these
is.
pictures, and I'll tell you, I don't know. I'll go in and see it. I'll make an appointment, Max, but it just, it looks, I don't know, looks
Definitely.
unhealthy.
Definitely needs a lot of love.
Next for old business was trails. So went out to the Sylvania site with Mike, Pete Nichols from Conservancy, and Leslie from the Conservation Commission. tried to go on the trail, but the ticks pretty much stopped us like immediately.
Yep.
It is crazy.
Like how many steps were we in? Like 10, 20 steps, and then we recovered.
We didn't make 100 feet.
We did not. It was, yeah. And select. I'm trying to remember how. So for the select board, they're fine with people from this committee, from the Conservation Commission and the Coast Conservancy going to inspect the area, do everything. Nothing's been committed on financing or anything like that. That's something I'm still waiting for Pete to actually give me some numbers on. But pretty much the main access would be at the south portion of the Sylvania site, because that's the only sort of easy slope area you could access it from. The area where there's the parking, you have to have like some type of stairs or a long ramp that would pretty much need an easement from the neighbor.
If we stayed on the property, it could be a stair, but if we wanted some sort of ramp. Okay. And at that point, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah.
Just build the stair. and not a ramp.
Now, is it, so it's not public property yet? Can people?
No,
go?
it's public property.
Okay, so
You can
I've
walk
been
on it.
concerned. I wanted to ask you
Walk on it.
guys if I could, so I can poke around back in there.
At your own risk.
We're
no, I
brush
understand that.
busting clothing because the brambles are
Yeah,
intense,
well, we've been-
especially on the north side of the site.
At the back side of our property too, it's pretty nutty, but we're just right there at the boundary and I don't want to be busted
So,
trespassing as a
I think you remember we want.
paying taxes for all of them. Once. That would be a bad look.
Yep.
It's pretty
And
cool back there. That was
I
nice
spoke with-
waterfront.
Yeah, it is. It
And I
just-
spoke with John Day
Yeah.
from the Public Works Department, and he's fine going out there and getting a leveler to that area that we went to, and starting to work on getting rid of that bit of brush so that there is more of a formal entrance with less ticks.
The other thing is, I think at one point you talked about going right along the shore, which I don't think makes sense. Maybe partly because there's always gullies,
Right.
so you've got, and it's soft soil.
Well, I was saying the shoreland zone, that's just, that's the 250 from the water. I don't know what the measurement, oh, we got the scale
It's
down there.
600 feet,
Well,
so, okay, so 250 is that.
And the
But
two,
still, it might be,
and that's fine. The 250 was more of just, let's not build anything down there.
Right.
Let's use that as the recreation passive stuff. But the trails can be as far inland as we want.
yeah, just a wild streets.
But that's all I haven't heard anything new from Pete since then. But that was just the update I have for trails, unless anyone has any other questions.
So is the thought to go when the ticks have died down, if they ever do?
Well, as I say, the Public Works will have like something out to level that area and get rid of the ticks so that there's at least an entrance that can get down there. Once that's done, I'll let people know.
Once you get through the grasslands and into the woods, the ticks aren't so bad.
Right.
Yeah, and you have to mow a 4-foot path through the grass to keep that.
So once that's done, I'll let people know. And then, as I say, anyone who's with the Sylvania Committee can go down there, anyone with the Coast Conservancy, anyone with the Conservation Commission. Pretty much it's open at that point.
Regarding the ticks too, while they are voracious, and many of them, it's been almost exclusively dog ticks. So that part has been good.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's still not great, but,
Anaplasmosis.
oh no, I mean, I completely agree, but that's still those, no, I get it, it's awful.
Yeah, I've had actually Lone Star here too. And I've had a lot of bites for my work, but all three, so. But yeah, right now it seems to be dog ticks big time.
Yeah, I agree, they're a total concern.
Yeah, that's true.
So next, battery storage, but I feel we've also kind of touched on this quite a bit already with the public survey. Is there any other thoughts people have on those batteries?
I still feel like we need to have a Well, we can wait till after the survey comes back and
Mhm.
see where that points us or what. But I'd love to see some experts and not just CMP. I think besides Sundog, to come talk about just general
So,
energy use.
so I have so far talked with 2 people, and I am trying to get to the PUC as well to talk about it. I've spoke with, and sorry, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was involved with Grid Solar, who did the Boost Bay project.
Okay.
And I spoke with George O'Keefe, who was the economic director up at Rumford, where the other project has taken place. I do have their thoughts. Because of the time restraints, I don't know if I can go deep into it, but they both kind of had a very similar, not so good outlook on having the batteries at the Sylvania site. I don't know if you still want their opinions, or I can wait for the PUC to get it as well. And also we can wait for the survey results.
Yeah, I'm thinking more a general discussion of, everything from the upgrading the substation, to the idea of solar on the site. But just, what's realistic, what legislation's coming, so more of an overview, not necessarily
So it's not as much on the battery storage, it's more on just upgrading the grid.
what options we can do.
Okay.
What options are realistic legally and financially? Because we have a little sense, Sundog said maybe not, or solar, but I still don't want to rule it out personally.
Right.
And things are changing. It's definitely a moving target in Augusta around all this stuff. So I don't know. I like someone on the Maine Climate Council or the Maine Climate Hub, or somebody's just got the big picture of all the options. Like be useful for us if we decide that that's where we want to go. But finally,
It might be a topic in August if I can find someone. Because we're gonna have to wait for the survey results and everything. Any other comments for battery storage? Okay. I didn't have it on the agenda, and I forgot to bring it up during the adjustments to the agenda. I was asked by the 250th birthday committee about potentially using Sylvania next year, either for starting the parade, like what the fire department did when we were hosting the firemen's conference here, and possible hosting actual events there for people to go to. I said I just check with the Sylvania committee to see if anyone had any initial thoughts. This is right now just the planning phase. There's nothing solid yet. They're just looking for possible spots to put it. And I checked with Max Lewick. He said he doesn't see any issues right now. Obviously, as it's a bit more developed, he'd like to hear more about it, but he doesn't see any issues.
My only comment would be, it's there's a lot of trash and
it's really ugly.
it's ugly, I don't,
They're just looking for a spot.
well,
Down
I mean,
Cider Hill
for
or-
marshaling the parade, that's one thing, but for having events there,
Right.
you would need a couple of dumpsters down there to get all the crap that's down there
Yeah,
out of there and hauled away.
Sounds like a great future goal.
yeah,
I mean,
future goal, but
It's a neat idea. It would be a great big staging
And
area
you're
of some
away, I
sort.
mean,
Right.
it's doable.
And again, this is just them, I guess, making a list of what land is available. Cider Hill probably is on there.
or 80 gray,
It might be 80 Gray. It might be
Main Street Landing.
So
could
ball
be,
field.
Okay, maybe the ball field. Maybe it's
Right,
Quarry
that's a
Hill.
good
Who
idea.
knows? They're just looking for big land where they can put some events.
Okay, I mean, I would say I'm open to it, but it sounds, I'm very inspired to go.
Well, and this is just the thing that I go back to them and say, they're fine with it, but you understand there's a lot of trash there,
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty ugly, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions or comments on that?
Well, just like I said, like a jog right there, and it's all kinds of roots and bushes. Just for instance, if one of the firemen, they were getting ready to go and he trips and unfortunately breaks his leg, who's liable?
The event being held there?
For the person, yeah.
On a town-owned property?
The town would be liable.
Yeah, and the committee would be the ones responsible for getting it
Right,
cleaned up. So it would be on that negotiation front.
I
too.
see.
If it's gonna be held there, who's gonna be liable for it?
Right.
Be that committee.
I think that might be important to explore.
I feel like we're not quite ready to, because right now, for instance, the wells, we want to keep people away from those and the
Right.
building and stuff. It's not set up yet for making it clear where people can go. You know, maybe it would be by next June or whenever it is, but
But the staging area of the parade would
that would
be
be
the
fine.
exception.
Yeah, I,
think that.
yeah.
Or the storage component right now for these events, but not for actual foot traffic.
Yeah, I just feel like we're not set up for that. yet.
Mark, Gail, any thoughts?
I don't think it's a very good place for the staging area, but I don't see a reason to say no to a one-off event.
All right. So I'll pass that on.
Is that going to be in June? I'm just curious, or October,
That's a good question.
or they don't know yet.
I think it's June. Yes. No, they probably closed off, so it's probably not. All right, well, that's all the other items I have on the agenda, unless,
If I could add, it's more in the way of a question. The predecessor committee, we used to see reports from the environmental firm that was working for Leadvance. Is the town still receiving those documents? And we used to get updates on the activity on the site. I know they took down the soil vapor extraction process, but the other stuff still seems to be working on site. Is the town still its finger on the pulse as
In the
what
loop.
Leadvance is doing with
Sentinel wells and whatnot.
Well, they
Yeah.
went from 4 times a year to once a year.
Right.
You sent us the report sometime in last year. You sent us the company, I forget the name of it,
something day.
their engineering report. Yeah, so hopefully that's still coming and somebody should be doing due diligence with that.
I will have to check with Julie.
You know, this is a redevelopment committee. It's
Right.
not
Yeah.
the former committee. So,
Right.
but I'm just,
No, that's.
I don't want
that's fair.
something to come up and bite us in the
Right.
rear when
And is there,
we decide we want to do something.
and is there like a setback or anything from the Sentinel wells there in terms of what's open to the public? And people just poke all around that. So I guess I have a
That's
lot
fine.
of catching up to do, of course, so I don't mean to ask questions that have already been so soundly answered.
Have you seen the wells? They're pipes sticking out of the ground with
Yeah.
a padlock on them.
It's not much to it, right?
Somebody,
No.
somebody's got to really want to
Right.
be malicious and bring a bolt cutter or whatever down there in order to screw with them. So I don't see that really happening.
But I think it'll be up to us to develop. That's why I was thinking somebody to prevent some sort of fencing them off. I don't know.
Right,
something,
how to educate.
screening them, yeah.
So I'll ask Julie about that tomorrow or actually I'll send an email when I head out. And I'll send a mass email on what she says. Any other comments from the committee?
About the testing of the water, because I remember years ago when we first started, they did come out, what, once every quarter?
Quarterly.
And that was pretty extensive. I remember I used to love watching them and watching the various numbers. So they do that once a year?
I have to check with Julie on that.
Is that by fiat or is
I
it
have
law?
to- I have
Because
to-
what
I
if things
honestly have
should,
to check with
yeah.
Julie.
I was gonna say, if that changed dramatically or something, shouldn't we have that information?
DEP reduced the requirement, basically. They said they kind of met the RECRA goals. And
Right.
so they lightened the requirements from the engineering company. And we have all that from past meetings. Yeah, that was, we've got documentation on that. Although I will say, I mean, I'd love to have retained, we had this person, Joe Barnaccia,
Oh,
who's
yeah.
an engineer who worked for industry
Brilliant.
monitoring all this stuff. And he
Yeah.
sort of was ex officio for us, and he'd look at those reports and could interpret exactly what's going on.
Wow.
And showed that there was really no trend. It hadn't helped at all to remediate, which I think is why DEP said it's not gonna really change the picture over time at the rate they were pulling water out. So we have all that hopefully in the background file. files.
And is this just for 2022 or am I also, I don't know if 2021 is something you guys also are on.
There was a hiatus during COVID where
Yeah.
the committees.
People were on a
Didn't do it.
hiatus during COVID.
There was-
I don't remember seeing any documents recently. And now that's not to say I'm not having a senior moment, but I don't remember any.
There was a
I realize there are
Maybe it's
people
just off
virtually
the bat,
behind me.
right.
I think Julie sent one within a year of that.
I'll see what it is. If it is a annual thing, then I'll try and see what we can find in 2020.
I'd like nothing better for them, for the engineering firm to get off the site, get their equipment off the site.
Yeah.
And maybe just, come down every year and take their samples, but the remediation system is doing diddly. It's not, it's there, it's not going anywhere. And the system is pulling like a kilogram a year or something out of this.
Yeah,
It's not-
yeah, yeah.
So I will try and get that. Any other comments from the committee? There are none. I would appreciate a motion to adjourn.
Sorry to hijack the middle of the meeting. I'll show up on time next time.
No.
Maybe, depending on
Yeah.
construction conditions on one between here.
I'm going to take that as a motion to adjourn.